Beat, that means I'm recording. Yes. Okay, got it. Okay, Austin Meyer hanging out at Mike Brown's office again, and we're gonna do a little hardware review. Let me just drop a quick little bomb here to get us started. Fly this sim. Everybody please go to austinmeyer.com. That's austinmeyer.com. And there's a little link at the top that says beware, Roland Pinto and fly this sim. Go to austinmeyer.com and click on that link. If anybody's considering buying Fly This Sim, I'm not going to risk getting in legal trouble by telling you to do it or not do it, but I have a rather large history of what happens to people that try to deal with Fly This Sim or Roland Pinto. And if you can see what's happened to others, then you can make a decision about whether you want it to happen to you next. So I just want to get that out there. All right, so enough about Fly This Sim. Let's move on and talk about cool stuff instead. What we have here today is something Mike Brown sells at XForcePC. It's an $8,000 cockpit setup, and that setup, by the way, that $8,000 includes everything. It includes this awesome wraparound monitor, the fast machine, everything you see here. So the $8,000, it's not exactly cheap, but you get some cool stuff. So let's look at each little bit of this hardware and see how it works in X-Plane too. So let's just look at the components we're going to start off with, and I'm looking at prices right off screen here. The stay level avionics panel. This thing, $500. It's actually metal. It's got a nice feel to it, a $500 component. The Yoko Yoke Plus here, it's $1,000. Very nice feel. It's fluid. It's heavy. It doesn't have too much friction. It really feels like the yoke of a real airplane.
The wobble you're seeing is the table.
Oh yeah, he's got it. Yeah, he's got a cheap little dinky table here. And then the TQ6 Plus throttle, $700 component, and this is kind of interesting. This is set up like the throttle quadrant, basically in a real turboprop. I wouldn't exactly recommend this for anything except a twin turboprop. Now we're flying a single engine turboprop here, so we're only going to use one of the two throttles, but this would be like great for a King Air as well. Now, this is going to require just a little bit of discussion and calibration to get this thing to set up right. Let me show you how it's done. Mike, can you see that left throttle here, that throttle one? Okay, good. Okay, so here's how the throttle works in a real turboprop, and we're calibrating to do the same thing in X-Plane. This is wide open throttle. In a PT6, which I have in my airplane, and we're simulating here, wide open throttle is just going to dump so much gas into the engine, you will over-torque it, over-temp it, overspin it, and destroy the engine. So you literally never in the real airplane go all the way up to max throttle. Instead, you simply advance the throttle until you hit a torque, temperature, or RPM limit on the turbine. Then as you pull it back, you get to idle, okay? Now here's the thing. Idle in a PT6 is still like 50 horsepower or something like that. And idle in a PT6 turbine in a light airplane would absolutely have you taxing at 30 or 40 knots or something like that, really faster than you'd ever want to go. And it has to idle this fast for two reasons. One, the combustion of all the gasoline inside the engine is well over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And if that combustion were to reach out and touch the aluminum walls of the engine, it would melt your engine. And you destroy, literally, I'm not kidding, you destroy a $500,000 engine in less than 30 seconds if you let it idle too slow, for real. And so they have to idle it at a really high RPM, like more than 50% of redline compressor RPM, to keep a wall of insulating air running along the sides of the engine, so that the flame combustion is insulated from the engine wall and doesn't melt the engine. And I've got an awesome YouTube video. Google like 844X engine start on YouTube, and you'll see a cool little video where I show the whole sequence of starting up and running a PT6 and what kind of temperatures and stuff are involved. But at any rate, you pull it back and you're at idle, but idle is still at more than 50% compressor RPM. You would wear out the brakes or overheat the brakes on an airplane just trying to keep the thing taxiing at a proper speed at idle. That is how insane these PT6s are, which is why I love them, of course. So what do we do to keep from destroying our brakes? And the answer is we have to bring that prop into reverse. We don't spin the whole engine backwards, we pitch the propeller backwards. So the propeller puts out less thrust or even negative thrust. This is called beta. And for beta, the propeller comes into a reverse. And so even though the airplane is moving forwards with the propeller doing like this, you start bringing the prop up into reverse, and it starts to push the airplane back instead at idle. That's called beta. And you go into beta, you hear this type sound. It's like this growling noise coming out of the prop. It's the coolest damn sound. And that's the prop slowing the airplane down. Then, if you come back even more than that, you come farther and farther into beta, more and more reverse pitch, and eventually you start dumping fuel into the engine as well. Now you're actually gunning the engine with the reverse propeller pitch. That's full-on reverse thrust. That will literally push the airplane backwards. And that's past the detent. So what you do is you push forwards until you hit a maximum temperature, torque, or turbine RPM limit. You come back, and you're at this really, really high idle to keep that insulating wall of air. Oh, and also in my evolution, I have to run it at a pretty high idle to run the air conditioner, because the air conditioner drags the compressor down from all the load running that air conditioner, and dragging the compressor down causes it to turn too slow, and it causes the insulating wall of air to break down around the engine. In other words, turning on the air conditioner could destroy the engine, literally, not kidding. And so you have to go to a high idle here. You can adjust low and high idle with these red knobs. And that high idle spins that compressor at like 65% RPM. Keep that insulating wall of air built up, but you're looking at a 40-mile-an-hour taxi. And a destroyed pair of brakes by the time you made it out to the runway to try and counter the engine thrust. So you bring it back and you have this crazy high idle, bring it back a little more, the propeller pitch starts going backwards to give reverse thrust, that's beta. Go back even more, now we start dumping additional fuel into the engine with even more negative pitch, and you got full on reverse. And so when you calibrate this kind of wicked awesome throttle quadrant in X-plane, go to, let's say, throttle 1, we're going to go down to throttle 1, and we're going to go to edit response curve, and you got to do this, edit response curve, and then push it all the way forwards and make sure that's at the max. Bring it back to the bottom of the limit, and then you drag the little line to say, okay, that's our beta. That's where you drag into beta. Then drag it back more, and we go into reverse.
So the
you see what's going on?
dot goes where the detent is.
Yes. Put the beta dot where the detent is, because that means now we're not at beta, but we're just about to touch it. And then you bring it back below that detent just a little bit, and we come into beta significantly. And that's where that propeller pitch starts reversing. Then you keep dragging it back, and now you're starting to dump fuel in with even more reverse, which is like big time reverse. And there's a detent in the real airplane so that you don't go into beta by mistake. And the reason you don't go into beta by mistake is because you would never want to do this in flight. It would just be like catastrophically, you might overspeed the prop, fall out of the sky, it'd be a disaster. You only want you on the ground. And that's why they got a detent in the real airplane. In the real airplane, they actually like lift it up over a little gate. But in here, they just have a detent, which is, 90% is good. So you do want to make sure you calibrate this properly. And this is the TQ6S Plus. No, the TQ6 Plus throttle, $700, nice feel, only recommended if you got a turboprop airplane, preferably a twin like a King Air. Then we got the RealSim Gear G1000 suite here. And Mike, what were you saying about the monitors on this thing? These are the nice monitors.
Yeah, these have they're transitioning to the IPS panels, which give you good viewing angles. So if you're sitting a little high, sitting a little low,
they don't black out on you.
Shift or you don't get color shift.
Got it. Okay, so this is RealSim Gear. Now another cool company is Simionic. Simionic, they drop an iPad in here instead. And the Simionic product is also really cool. So I don't just want to cover the RealSim Gear and forget about Simionic, because those guys also do a great job. So if you want to look at Garmin, at least consider both RealSim Gear and Simionic. And realize I've worked with both companies. They're both small companies run by great people, just like me, Mike, and other small businesses. Next, we've got the Logitech Switch panel. That's this thing here. And so you've got your Avionics Master Fuel Pump, de-ice, pitot heat. Yeah, these switches have a nice feel to them. This is very much like the feel in my actual airplane. A nice solid feel. This is a really high quality. It says $90?
Yeah.
Well, that's the best $90 you'll ever spend.
90 or $80.
Okay. Yeah, well, so this is $1,000, this is $90, and they both feel really similar to the real airplane. They both feel great. So this is a deal and a half. The Logitech Switch panel. Okay, so that's a quick view of the components. Now we're going to go fly this thing today in an Epic LT. Now I've got about yes.
Let's do a cut right here.
Okay.
So when we come back, we'll be flying.
Okay, so we got a little save point in the edit, and we are back. Today we are going to be in an Epic LT in X-Plane. I've got about 45 minutes or an hour in this actual airplane. Oh my God, it's a good airplane. It is so easy to fly and so just shockingly powerful. It is absolutely incredible. Let's take a look here. And sorry, I've always got to get used to other keyboards, don't I? Okay, let's just take a quick look at the propeller. Mike, bring in some volume, will you? Didn't you have a volume switch down there where we can, let's make sure we hear it, because the sound on this thing is cool. Crank it up. Is that going to show up on the camera okay? Is that enough? Bring it a little more.
It's going in your microphone.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, this is a freaking 1,000 horsepower engine in the real plane. Let's feel it.
You have a different sound when you get in the cockpit, too.
Yeah, let's look at it from the outside. So right now, as you can probably see, that propeller is trying to pull us forwards. You see the lift vectors on the prop pulling us forwards? Now, and that's just an idle. Now, I'm going to pull us into beta.
Oh, that noise. That's that noise.
Just like the real plane. And you notice we've gone to like no thrust because the propeller is going, it's just sitting there in its own wake. It's just spinning around in its own wake. Then we add a little more. We really push it down. And it starts adding fuel and pushing us backwards. I got the brakes on right now, but now it's really pushing us backwards and it's dumping fuel in. Now, let's get out of reverse and out of beta, and we're into alpha mode of the prop. And now you don't have that growling because the propeller's not spinning in its own wake. It is exactly like this in the real airplane. It is the coolest damn sound and feel. And the guys, who made this Epic aircraft?
You know, if you pull up the flight, it may tell you, so you have a little flight menu over on the right.
Over on the right, okay.
Plane.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here? I never get there. I never get there this way. The Aerobasque E1000 G1000. Okay, was this freeware or payware? Do you know?
I think this is a paid plane.
Okay.
It's a really good one.
Okay, yeah. Well, I can promise you it looks and sounds exactly like the real airplane. And I say that having flown it. Okay, so let's get in the cockpit. And now let's go B for brakes off. And now do I get rudder pedals today? No, I don't. Oh good, the rudders are auto-linked to the yoke though.
Yes.
Right, because when X-Plane doesn't have rudder pedals detected, I coded it to automatically follow the yoke. Sorry, sometimes I feel like I'm confused by X-Plane because it's like stuff I coded 15 years ago that I haven't looked at in 15 years. But that's good, it means the code worked the first time and I haven't had to change it. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm advancing the throttle here and we're seeing the torque come up. And the ITT and the NP. So look, this is the coolest thing. You got the torque here, 1,300 foot-pounds, the ITT, 620 Celsius, and the NP, the propeller RPM, 1,700 RPM, and the NG, the turbine RPM, 81%. And so you can see all of your engine stuff here, and then as you add power, whichever of these things starts to hit a limit first, that's where you quit advancing the throttle. And on my evolution at low altitude, I can only advance the throttle about 2/3 of the way before I bump into my torque limit. And then at high altitude, I can only advance about 3/4 of the way before I hit a temperature limit. Now here, the way this engine is rigged up, it looks like it's letting me really frickin', there we go. Now I'm bumping into a torque limit and I'm probably about 80% of the way up on my travel. So no surprises there. All right, now let's see if I can get the landing gear up.
Remember, you have a switch for that.
Oh yeah, I should have used the switch. Boop, okay. All right, now let's get back in the cockpit. And then what do we have? Our 3D, our whole 3D cockpit thing. And yeah.
The default forward view is with nothing.
Okay.
So you have to shift 9 if you want to see the
I like the default forward view with nothing because we sprung for the full $8,000 for the full enchilada here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little quick flying. So I'm at Teterboro here, and just busted off out of Teterboro, and we have my wife's favorite city, and probably mine too, New York, out the window, and let's ease off the juice here. All right, well, why don't we just do a quick approach? That's the thing you do with these Garmins, right? So let's go to menu, direct. We have to dial in a destination. We will say PQRST, And this is the avionics I fly in my real airplane, so I should be able to make things work here. And I can just tell you that using this, it feels similar to using the real airplane. The button feel isn't quite the same. Let's see, procedures, select approach. Let's do the RNAV runway 6. Let's just go from Elise, activate, and then let's see if we can zoom out a little bit here. Oh geez, it wants me to go all the way out here to Elise and then bring it on back in. All right, we will definitely, we'll do some time acceleration and or Mike can edit some of the video out. Oh, another thing we can do is punch it. Okay. So I'm going to turn on to my outbound. So what we've done is we've entered Teterboro, we selected the approach, we've activated the approach, and now we see the magenta line here. Now I'm going to go to, let's see, alternate T. Oh yeah. We're going to go to 16x time travel, or 16x speed, ground travel here.
Hyperspace.
Yeah, hyperspace, 16x. And save everybody some time. Woo! And then you can see we're running on along the magenta line here. All right, let's take it out of hyperspace. And nice 220 knots, which you could actually do in this plane. And yeah, the real airplane is so easy to fly. It's a 300-knot airplane, easy. Yet it's as easy to fly as a Cirrus SR-22. And it's so smooth and quiet inside that it simply defies belief. Okay, so now we seem to be on the inbound approach. Now, if I was serious, I'd bother to get out an approach plate. But
Now it's the right altitude.
yeah, that'll give me all the right altitudes. But I can see my path here. Boop, 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 boop. Now, what I would love to see is the path I'm on turn magenta. It'll go from white to magenta when it goes active. That has not happened, possibly because I bypassed that initial thing in a hyperspace in a 70-degree bank turn. So I may have confused Philip Munzel wrote the G1000 stuff here. I may have confused his logic. So that means something I can bother Philip about a little later. All right, let's go to the right tank. Okay, this is a little odd.
That's
the right tank is.
Like,
Oh, yeah, because that's odd. Oh, I see. So do I have a tank selector here?
No.
Okay. All right. So anybody that gets this airplane with this hardware setup is going to have to take a button and assign it a tank selection. Oh, okay. I just accidentally found an error with the airplane. The real Epic LT automatically switches the tank like every 5 minutes or something like that. Every 5 minutes, the plane goes boot, boot, boot from left tank to right tank to keep the fuel load balanced. This is not doing it.
So we're getting unbalanced.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the tiny little note for the Aerobasque guys, make your Epic automatically switch between left and right tanks every 2 minutes or 5 minutes or something like that, because the real airplane does.
Crash because of the imbalance?
Well, crash may be a strong word, but it'll start leaning to one side or the other. And certainly in my evolution, I accidentally let the fuel get kind of out of control one time, heavy on one side. And when I landed, the plane would taxi in like this because it was all heavy on one side and light on the other. And it looked like it did a sloppy, it's a home-built airplane, right? And so it looked like it did a sloppy job building the airplane, taxiing in like, like this. But it was just a fuel loading issue. Okay, so let's go ahead and get going here. All right. And we're gonna pass this initial fix here. And all right, I'm gonna race in. All right, I'm gonna do another time acceleration to avoid boredom. Oh, whoops, that's the. There we go. And so basically, as you see, we've got the. Oh, that's cool. Watching other traffic also move at hyperspace speeds. Okay, so I've gotten way off course, so we're going to go ahead and bring it on back. And eventually we're going to hit this fix. Now, another little problem I see Philip has here is he's got a lot of text overlaying, so it's kind of like illegible. And I have not seen that happen in the real Garmin. So there's something about what Garmin does to declutter this that Philip hasn't done yet. So I'm going to have to bug him about that. And okay, so we're coming down, we got the fix, and then there's one more after this. And No offense taken if anybody edits this part of the video out, hint, hint, since it's slow. We'll motor on along a little farther. Oh, okay, and there we go. And so now we're arriving at the field, and as you can see, I'm ever so slightly high, sarcastically, because I don't have my approach plate with the altitudes, you see? So I was following the approach around in the lateral guidance, which the Garmin gives, but I didn't actually bother to set up an approach plate in my lap that lists all the altitudes. So I didn't fly to the right altitudes. So no surprise, I arrived over the airport like, 2,000 feet high. But that's an easy enough thing to solve. So we'll just go ahead and bring it on down. All right, now I'm going to do something I would never do in the real airplane.
You put it in reverse?
Drop it into beta in flight. You would not do this in the real airplane, ever. Okay, then we're going to drop the gear down, bring the little flaps.
You're a maniac.
Yes, that is true. Again, I never do this in the real plane. And it'll just drop it into reverse into flare. I don't have all day. I'm a busy man. Okay. And they're drag it down to a stop. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so at any rate, that is the what do you call the unit again? This $8,000 unit?
It's the Deluxe G1000.
The Deluxe G1000, about $8,000. I've gone over the components. Philip's done a good job, not quite yet a great job. I'm going to work with him a little more to cure one or two of these tiny little bugs. And the Garmin, the real sim gear hardware is good. It doesn't feel exactly like the real Garmin hardware, but it's so close. You can absolutely learn how to use the real system. The Yoke is great. The throttles are great. Just be sure when you calibrate it in X-Plane to make the bottom of the normal travel drag the little beta dot there in the joystick calibration, and then that's full reverse. And you got your throttle and condition levers, and you just do that to pull the condition. Good, you had that rigged up properly. And you can feather the props to shut down. And then the Aerobask Epic, at least it sounds and looks and feels just like the real plane. So at any rate, there's a quick look at the hardware. Now, I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to do another video tomorrow with Mike on Xavion, which is an app that I wrote that you can connect to X-Plane. So I'm going to toot my own horn tomorrow. So look for the Xavion update coming soon.